England 2. Those suckers, Finland 0. Hey, come on, Harry Kane.
I imagine sucker is a delicious licorice treat from Finland.
Yeah, it could be, actually.
With lots of umlauts over the A's.
Oh, is that the Finnish? They do like an umlaut. A lot of languages do, of course. Yes, Harry Kane scoring a brace on his 100th appearance for England. He had gold boots on, Jim, and he made the most of them.
I enjoyed that a lot.
He had them all on in training as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
He's like he wanted to get used to them.
He had to score.
Yeah, he really did. He had to score twice, and he did.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. I mean, it was the goalkeeper had earned his.
Hradecki was amazing.
Corner.
Yeah, he did,
He was fantastic all game. He was really good, and it could have been far more painful for Finland in terms of a scoreline.
If England hadn't repeatedly shot straight
at him, exactly.
Yeah.
But he deserves his credit, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely.
But eventually Kane thought a bit higher, and then he hit the bar and went in. And so actually, he thought this is the last thing he'll be expecting.
It's a lovely one. As Pete was saying on the WhatsApp at the time, it's a lovely one when it sits up like that.
Sat up beautifully.
Like
a seaside punching bag.
I'm going to call
Ready to
that.
hit.
I'm going to call that a lash.
Yeah, that's a lash.
yeah,
It was a
yeah.
lash. The way he jinxed past the defender as well. I thought, there's a man who's finally fit.
Yeah.
I still don't think no children are ever going to buy Skechers football boots, though. I don't know.
Are they Skechers still?
Yeah, he's got
Was it the
Skechers.
Skechers gave him his back injury?
Well, yeah.
Charlie Kane did that. These have got wheels on the bottom of them.
That's illegal. But, I mean,
They've offered more than LA gear.
LA gear, British Knights.
I know nobody ever kind of offers an over 30s player a decent boot deal. You know, inexplicably
Ronaldo and Messi are gonna have that.
All right, they'll have that,
Yeah.
but only those two. You sort of look at that and sort of go, I can't help but think of the Myline Class advert where she talks about an integrated shoehorn.
Yeah.
It just sticks in my head.
Jamie Redknapp does that as well.
Exactly, but he kicks a ball over a stadium, so
That's true.
to
also
prove.
You're having a go at Myline Class?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah,
You would have
she
met-
ruined hearsay.
You would have met Myline Class a bunch of times because she works at the same office as us. And she's lovely. She's a
She
really
is
nice
lovely.
person.
She's friends with Lauren Laverne.
There you go then.
To be fair, though,
I'm just saying she's ruined the idea of Skechers football
She
boots.
was
no, hang on.
Ed Miliband that time as well.
Yeah,
On
She
telly.
was. Yeah.
You did say that she ruined hearsay. I'd like to know more about that.
I think they ruined
pure and
themselves.
simple.
Didn't they?
Okay.
They just happened, all right?
Okay. Well, I dislike her then because they
To be fair,
went
Marcus,
before the time.
To be fair, Marcus, him saying Myline Class ruined hearsay could be construed as a compliment.
They could.
Yeah, it's a good point,
Done
actually.
us all a favour.
Agent provocateur.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Well, back to Harry Kane and the Golden Boots. Two lovely goals for him. It was a great night, of course. It was Harry's night.
It was.
It was Harry's night.
Felt
We
like a
can all agree.
testimonial, wasn't it?
But Trent Alexander-Arnold
Yeah.
nearly made it all about himself with those beautiful passes.
Yeah.
It was a great performance from him, and what we expect from young Trent.
I think everybody played well, essentially, didn't they, again? And you'd expect that from the calibre of opposition, which I think, given that this is Group or League B, tells you a lot about the stark drop-off in quality
Could
of
be.
European football, that this is the sort of second tier of it. But yeah, he stood out again, and he has really, really made a serious stake to keep that position, I think.
But it's not all like that in Group B, because there's the group with Georgia, Czech Republic, Ukraine and Albania as well. And I thought, well, that's a bit tasty.
Tasty, that.
I thought, I wish we were in that one.
That is a definition of difficult away trip, isn't it?
Yeah, but that was always the thing.
Come back about 20 years older from those trips.
Anything
I
east of
don't think
Brussels.
that's moved the needle on that point at all.
No, true.
With the new
It's
Champions
not
League.
even Georgia.
No.
Oh,
They did well in the Euros, though, Jim.
exactly.
They did, but
St
come
George
on.
spearing on the badge.
Exactly. Four
need
St
to-
George's flags, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Start thinking
All right.
about what you've done.
I see what's happening.
I would say that what's interesting about, I was going to go into a bit of detail on a load of players I thought played really well, and you summed up nicely saying that everyone had a pretty good night. I think what's interesting about the Trent situation is that it may well be that under Southgate, and we see this a lot, in managers and relationships between managers and players, just didn't quite, vibe, didn't really get what obviously he probably got what he offered, but wasn't particularly looking for that skill set or whatever, preferred another player in that position, which can happen at club and international level. Carsley clearly really likes him, wants him to play that right back, almost hybrid role, because he was popping up everywhere, wasn't he? And if he's given that space, with that ability, and obviously Finland, with respect, Hradecki looks like their best player by miles based on that performance last night. They can't deal with him. He's going to have the run of the place, and he certainly did have that.
Yeah.
Whether that's going to translate across to genuinely key, difficult international
That'll
games,
be the question.
Exactly.
It gives me the Beckham GBs a little bit when all the focus is on one player doing Hollywood passes. But Finland kind of concentrated on Saka a little bit, and that just left him a bit freer to.
Yeah.
That's a point, because I think with Alexander-Arnold, it's a very simple way of looking at it. But of course, if he's given time, as you're saying, then he can distribute. And I suppose the idea is if you're playing better opposition, they try and squeeze up the pitch.
Yeah.
Well, then if you have
Leaves you
Gordon, as
space.
you saw what happened against Ireland, but obviously we don't want to go into this too much because we've got the 2 games to focus on, and obviously you play better opposition. You're not going to be able to do what you're able to do against poorer opposition. It's painfully.
I agree with that.
Yes, I thought you might.
Yeah.
But the early signs are good. I think with Carsley, if you look at the other right backs inside, Liveramento's in there. I think if everybody's fit, I mean, Carl Walker still wants to play international football. I thought he might have retired.
I think it'll be a case now that Walker will. If Carsley stays, it feels to me that it'll be Trent.
Trent's his man.
Choice. I think so.
Yeah. Well, I think because the way he wants to play, you would imagine, and also against Ireland. With Colwill as sort of left back, if you like, they tended to, Trent did his stuff that he does for Liverpool, stepping into midfield, and pushing up and so on. And then England, that they can form a little bit more of a back 3 with Colwill sort of tucking in. Now, of course, that's what Carl Walker did. The left-sided defender, left back, as we may say, under Southgate tended to kind of push up a little bit. Obviously, with Kieran Trippier and all that bollocks, we don't need to go into it. But Southgate did manage other tournaments, by the way, in case people have forgotten. So I think it looks pretty good, and I think it's something that a lot of people have been wanting to see. On the other side of the defence, we wanted to see Rico Lewis. I mean, does he have a position? It's a remarkable, you're given a free role kind of thing.
Yeah,
and tenacious player as well.
I thought it was really interesting that he kind of allowed both of his fullbacks to kind of operate like that. I think obviously Alexander-Arnold, it was a bit clearer where it was the sort of Dani Alves kind of remit of the entire right side, and so pop in the middle a bit if you want. But Lewis was all over the place, wasn't he? He was popping up on the other side of the pitch.
Is he a false 9?
Very good with his back to goal.
Yeah,
I was very impressed by.
What a lot of people say, I think David Cartley's talked a bit about this on an episode of OTC a while back. I think he was talking about Thiago Motta and how kind of revolutionary he considered his tactics to be. And we're not a tactics show here, but just very, very briefly as a slight digression. I'll have a quick go at it. I can't remember what he said.
Long ball.
No, what he was saying was really the way that Thiago Motta looks at things and why he's such an interesting coach. I think they were just talking about the most forward-thinking coaches or whatever. He said that, apart from the 2 centre-backs, every other position is quite interpretive and it's quite fluid, and that may well be the future of what we see. Lewis clearly fits into that idea, presumably learnt from Guardiola and his coaches. The player I'd love to mention would be Angel Gomes, who
amazing,
absolutely amazing.
When have we ever had a player like that?
Exactly.
Let's be careful of falling into that though, because we've said it about Harry Winks before, about Mason Mount. There's a lot of pressure.
But they're both different to what Gomes brings.
But they're not, of course. But that's always the way, isn't it?
Gomes the ball's there. I'm having it. Can I have it back now? I'm having it.
Unlike Gomes, those two were never going to win us the World Cup, Jim. Right?
That's true.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought he was fantastic as well. Obviously, he was a very eye-catching performance. He takes a lot of touches, which is quite often a negative, but he makes it count. He makes it work. I'd be interested to see again how he would perform against a better team that press you more. But he really kind of didn't waste his time on the ball. Always wanted it. Can ping it off with one touch if he needs to. Some really, really good sort of short passing and long passing. Really, really likeable. Won a couple of headers.
He's a short king.
Really, he's absolutely.
Pete, surely he's caught your eye because he's such a short king.
He's the short king. King.
Is he doing a lot for the short king?
He's the short king. Short king.
The short kingdom.
I think he is.
But I like his mobility. He's always, as you say, lends the ball out, gives it back again. Takes it back again, whatever. He's full of energy, full of running.
Great tackling as well.
There's no other. Marcus, you remember England players far better than me. I can't think of another England player like that. Jim talks about us hyping up midfield players as being the future of this, that, and the other. Entirely fair point. But I can't think of a player at all like him that we've had, really.
You've forgotten Scott Parker.
Scotty Parker. There we go. He's like a shit Scott Parker.
I thought he was unlucky to not have a goal, actually, because there was a point where he was through on goal. I think the defenders slipped over and pretended Gomes has fouled him. I think he's through on goal if the referee spots that.
You're right.
I'd back him to score.
Yeah,
Scott Parker's not like it.
No. And by the way, I love Scott Parker as a man and a player. But with Gomes again, Carsley's again just trying to sort of keep everybody in check a little bit, and he's saying, let's not go into that whole we've never had a player like that kind of thing, even though England have really lacked players like that. The amount of chat that we've said on this podcast that other people have written about and so on is England not controlling matches, and Carsley's been very, very aware of that. because how could you not? But also that's been a part of his remit as coaches in the setup at the FA and now as England manager, at least on an interim basis, you would say, is to try and exert that control and sort of authority on a game. Because even against poor opposition, England sometimes struggle incredibly. And Gomes is a player who comes in and looks the part. I mean, Adam Wharton's another one. Of course.
So Wharton was the closest I came to when I was trying to think of one.
But obviously Wharton, we've.
But I've not seen enough of him really.
No, and I mean with Gomes, as it was mentioned, he was given the freedom of the pitch. I mean, Finland had their tactic, which was to sit very, very deep, as you thought, and hit England on the break. And by the way,
they did do that a couple of times.
They probably should have scored. I mean, I forget who it was, the lad who should have slipped in Pukki.
Pukki,
you have your country's top scorer of all time in Akers, an easy ball. He goes, no, I see the stars. And
I'm at Wembley. It's my Wembley as well.
And it is, and he converts it for whatever it is in rugby you get for that.
Two extra points, Marcus. Yeah. Unless it's a penalty in which it's 3.
There you go. That's what I was getting confused about. But yes, indeed. So again, there's all that kind of stuff with England. But Gomes, Carsley converted him as well. He wasn't that type of player, but he's found his role there, and he looks very, very exciting indeed. So, and that's it. You look at the possession, you look at the amount of passes England made, 181 passes actually, if we're going to be precise, the highest tally of any team in a single match in the current Nations League campaign so far.
Easy. Would you say it's easy?
I would, but Finland very much played their part in that. We should say, without being disrespectful, because on another night they probably would have scored
801 passes. That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I just saw that.
I know, incredible. Isn't it? So look, it all bodes well. But if I'm, going to sound sort of a bit of like a Debbie Downer, I think Roy Hodgson's England would have probably had the lion's share of possession.
Why is Roy getting strays for that
against Finland?
Say Steve McLaren's.
Say Anthony Gordon's final ball.
Anthony,
what's
is that an?
I'm just saying downsides of
an indie band that you like.
So look, again, it bodes well. I mean, we're talking about Carsley himself. I thought his honesty was quite nice after the game when he said,
I singing the anthem.
Imagine we did that in every post match.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted, is it?
Yeah.
He was singing Vindaloo. He went through the whole repertoire. But he said, I'm still uncomfortable at the moment. I'm still way out my comfort zone.
Yeah, he did.
Sort of stuff, which is like totally understandable.
Are we talking about Carsley now then? Because I've got thoughts on that.
Well, fine, let's go.
I just wanted to say that I thought England maybe slightly overplayed a bit based on that passes stat that I didn't know. I thought it was a little bit one pass too many here or there.
Yeah, I was shouting bang, bang a lot of the telly.
That's a few things to iron out. And I thought the tempo was better, but it could have been, there's probably more to do there. But anyway, on Lee Carsley, my thoughts on that. So I did find it refreshingly honest. And I thought it's good to have that kind of clarity and be so comfortable in your own skin you can answer a question in that way.
But you are arming your detractors.
Well, yeah, there's an element of that, Pete, because I felt, do you know what? I thought, regardless of all Southgate's shortcomings, which people have kind of laid bare and maybe been in a slightly harsher than he deserves, but that's a different discussion. What Southgate was always really good at, unless you're one of these kind of weirdo right-wing kind of swivel-eyed loonies, he was always good at the ambassadorial kind of leadership role, right? He always, more often than not, a couple of missteps here and there, but he would always call it pretty spot on. This is what we're doing, this is what we think, and he would really embrace that leadership role, and he kind of looked the part as well. That is a massive part of being the England manager. We can talk all we like, and we have done this week, about how great a coach Carsley is. Look at the punditry after the game, before the game. He's a brilliant coach. The players love him. We talked about it on Monday, didn't we? Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, a large part of the England job is an ambassadorial/leadership role. And there's nothing I've seen about Carsley that seems that he's suited for that. Now, it may be a problem, it may not, but if we're going to find very quickly, I think, that aspect of the job that Southgate was so good at, we're going to feel like we've taken for granted, because I don't think he's going to be equipped, just because of the type of character he is and the specialisms he's got, is he going to be equipped to deal with that? And it's easy to do it now in a Nations League when you're in the interim boss and you've got 2 games in. When a big flashpoint comes up, what role is he going to occupy? Because he's going to need to occupy one.
Yeah, this is maybe naive on my part, but I think that shouldn't matter and that the FA shouldn't pander to it.
I do agree with that point, but
fine.
But you're right that there will be a time where he is called into action about something like that.
I don't think I disagree with that point either. But I think the reality is, if a controversial incident happens while one player is wearing an England shirt or something political, as it always does, because that's what this culture war bunch of people want, hence the national anthem thing, he's going to be tested over and over again on that stuff. And it's going to snowball if he doesn't own it. And it shouldn't matter. I actually agree with you, but it will. And it's not difficult to do yourself out of the England job by misstepping on that stuff. And I think maybe I'm being harsh because he's new in it and he's not had a big high-profile role before. He may grow into it and occupy it. I don't see anything to suggest he will. And I'm just saying, put a flag in it now because it feels to me like it might become a problem.
Yeah. Give him a Jen Psaki. Just allow her to do all the PR stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Take questions.
Like a director of comms.
Yeah.
Get him a Tyndall.
Yeah. I don't think he should be answering the questions either, by the way.
I see what you're saying with Carsley. I think Carsley will probably just try and do it his way for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And
I hope he does, by the way.
Yeah,
I just don't know if it will last.
Well, indeed. And before Jim's point, Jim did say I might be being naive here as well. But I think we want that. I think that you just want him to be able to do what he does. He's not as big a figure in English football, of course, for obvious reasons. He didn't play for England. But
Southgate had that arc, didn't he? That kind of redemption arc
and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So there'll be less of that. And I think a lot of the
McDonald's
stuff.
advert. Give him a McDonald's advert.
He didn't.
It was actually a Pizza Hut advert.
It was a Pizza Hut.
It was a Pizza Hut.
Confused with
David,
Parker. George Parker chap.
David Platt also did a McDonald's advert as well.
Oh, did he? Right.
If you're going to come at the Kings, you best not miss it. Short King.
I'm sure there's one or two others, but I think with Carsley, yes. But the work Southgate did and his team was good, and I think that would have helped Carsley a lot. And you see that with some of the players. If we sort of, go back to the sort of the more football-y side of things with a little bit in mind of that ambassadorial role. If you look at the players who have come in, every one of them now go, I've been made to feel really welcome.
Yeah.
And you've never heard that kind of thing in the past before Southgate. Look at Noni Madueke. He came on the pitch, really enjoyed himself, expressed himself, got an assist, and he came off and he's laughing and joking with Grealish and one or two other sort of the senior players. All that stuff is good, and Carsley himself knows how to foster that environment. And under 21s, obviously they won it last summer. We go on and on about that. But he's been in the setup and knows all that. So I think if you have the goodwill of the players, which as things stand, that seems to be the case with Carsley. I mean, things can go wrong, and I understand you're talking about flashpoints. But it's all set up for him to go and do this. We've just got to hope that certain parts of the media grow up and behave themselves. That's the most unlikely thing. That's more unlikely.
Leave OTC out of this because they're not here to defend themselves.
Indeed. And so, it's more likely England will win the World Cup with flying colours than that happening, of course. So I hope that kind of chat is not really needed, but we'll have to save it for another day.
It will be.
We'll
it's
have
already
to save
been
it for
needed.
another day.
We've spoken a lot about the need for succession planning, right? And the FA themselves and Gareth Southgate themselves have sort of spoken about that as well. You would just hope that this would be factored into it, that it wouldn't just be the on the pitch stuff and the culture stuff in terms of football, because Luke's right, it's an ambassadorial role, and it always has been, and it's sometimes it's been done in a way where you sort of forget that, and managers have become completely unstuck because they've not been able to handle it. But that is a reality of it. The FA know that. If you are the England manager, you have a lot of downtime. There are certainly things that can be put in place to help Carsley with that, if that's the case. And you would hope if he does get the job full time, it will be a consideration.
Yeah, I mean, because he's not a young man taking the job. Obviously, his experience. I mean, I don't think anything can prepare you for the England job, but I think that is a consideration as well.
But totally, and it's worth making the point. But I do think it kind of slightly adjacent to what I'm saying. The reason that he's probably so good at his job and why the players like him and all the rest of it is probably because he's a fantastic coach.
When he can just get on with it without too much media speculation.
But there's a reason that Southgate and Steve Holland work together. Yeah. Steve Holland is a brilliant coach. You speak to ex-pros who work with him, they don't speak highly enough of him. But Steve Holland was never going to do the job that Southgate does. True. Because there's a leadership element to it. And if we're asking Carsley to inherit this role, and really he's 99% Steve Holland, only 1% Gareth Southgate. My fear is, I'm not hoping he fails at all. My fear is that the way that the ecosystem works in this country is he will fail because he won't have the requisite skills to deal with that. And I don't think there's anyone above him at the FA who'll take the flak.
But surely like this, out of the two skills to learn, 40 years of football knowledge and this kind of whole PR kind of side of things. That's teachable, isn't it?
I'll definitely be coached.
Trot out some lines.
I think we are.
He must be being
I think we're
coached.
going a bit too big on this because nothing's happened yet, and I think
the national anthem thing happened.
Indeed, we spoke. So the points have been made, but that seems to have been I don't think that's a big issue now.
He started talking about dogs and cats being eaten in Springfield. It was a disaster. It's a mess. He stepped on every rake.
But I think that's part of Carsley's thing. It's just kind of, well, I've addressed it, and I don't think he will kind of start giving them the sound bites and all the rest of it. And if all else fails, he can always set Ashley Cole on them.
Yeah, or just get Angel Gomes to just take on the columns and just lend them back and give them to other people. And take them on and give them
it's all there. It's all there. You see, so it bodes well.
I love seeing Ashley Cole in the role. By the way, people are talking, waxing very lyrically about how great he is as a coach as well.
He is a changed man.
It seems like
I think something we can all agree.
Set an air rifle in your pocket, Ashley.
Yeah. I just sort of think, like, what's he getting paid? Like, because he was on an astonishing amount of money as one of the probably the best player in his position for about 3 years.
He doesn't need the dough, does he?
I love it. What's he get? You're still thinking
Carsley
Cole. You're thinking about that headline.
Cole.
You're just as bad as all the other
tabloids. I heard he nearly swerved off the road when he heard he wasn't getting the assistant job.
It's a good kind of platform for him, though, isn't it? And it's a good shop window if he wants to sort of coach.
He's really passionate about it, and apparently he's really good at it.
Yeah.
Pet shop window. Love that.
A former England manager, Sven-Göran Eriksson, had a lovely tribute before the game, of course. Alongside Kevin Campbell, Tommy Banks and Craig Shakespeare.
It's like in memoriam at the Oscars,
it was a little bit.
It really did show you, sadly, how many people have passed away since England last played at Wembley.
Yeah.
It went on for a while, didn't it? It was good to see Sven get his dues, as well as the other ex-pros as well, of course. It's really sad, but I guess that's just how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But a good England performance to make him proud,
absolutely,
as well. So I think overall with England,
would it have made him proud though, because they were good in the second? They scored in the second half, not the first half.
They kept the clean sheet.
A real tribute to him would have been to blitz it in the first half and then really hang on in the second half, and then charm your way out of it in the interview afterwards.
Yeah, 3 of the 5 goals against Germany were in the second half, though.
Yeah, that's one game. Well done.
Yeah, it's the game.
Is it the game though? I think the fact that it's the game might be the problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've always got the memory. Certainly,
the memories live on,
as they will for Harry Kane in this game. 68 goals in 100 international games.
Fastest player to 100 caps ever, I think, as well.
How about that?
Yeah, it's it's been incredible. It really has.
He fancies 100 goals as well. That's what he said.
He does.
And he was annoyed when he got brought off, wasn't he? He's like,
a little bit.
Do you reckon that was pre-planned?
Yeah, probably to give him his flowers, wasn't it?
Yeah. Probably was. But I think it's always funny that, isn't it? Because I've seen players before where you think, they're getting subbed off early. I used to get, in my mind, David Ginola used to get subbed off towards the end at Spurs every single game.
He probably did.
But his lungs couldn't handle it. Yeah, tabs.
But when you're a striker and you're on 2 goals, part of you must be thinking, I fancy a hat trick.
Yeah. Well, he got to put the ball in the net first half, didn't he?
So. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
On the other end of the goal scoring spectrum, I feel that as much as I love him and I'm always glad to see him in an England shirt, I think Eberechi is just destined not to score for England. There's something about the ball. He takes it down and then it just seems to sort of bounce away.
Become a wiggly giggly.
I think there's an element with him and Madueke to a point as well, though I do appreciate Madueke got an assist where they really wanted a moment.
Yes.
Jim, I wrote down in my notes some nice opportunities for Eze, but it seems like he's trying way too hard.
Yeah.
He's just got to let it happen. Yeah. And I think there's an element with that. It almost feels like for a player like Eze, who plays for a more fashionable club than they used to be, but still quite an unfashionable club traditionally. There's a whole element of kind of, high school football team trials about it, where you've really got to make yourself noticed or you're not going to get picked again. And I think if he just focused on doing what he can do, I think that it'll be far better for him, because he could have scored probably 2 or 3 times last night. And on the Madueke front, of course, so Madueke's in a situation where he's going to be behind Saka, because Saka plays all the time. And Jim, you made the point, I think it was on Monday or last week, that Saka does play an awful lot of football, so it stands to reason at some point you are going to need to rest him here or there. My potential criticism of Madueke is he's an exciting player to watch, and he got an assist and everything, and he looked dynamic. I wonder if he's just a little bit too one-footed. He's very, very left-footed, and it could be predictable against a good fullback.
But against Wolves, though, was he not lauded for having 2 feet, though, because he was scoring with the
right? He looked very one-footed last night. Very one-footed.
Which maybe suggests that despite
he was given instructions, maybe.
Well, maybe. But
saving both feet for another game.
Yes, exactly, Jim.
Do you reckon he thinks I'm only doing both feet for the club
team?
For
a start.
Well, in towns,
start me and I'll use both feet.
No, he only uses both feet in cities that he hates.
I'm not getting paid extra for England, so I'm only going to do 1 foot. I just found him like quite surprisingly one-footed last night. You might be right. I might have misremembered the Wolves game.
I think you have. But look, that doesn't mean to say the performance he put in for England was not one-footed, as you say. And that's your truth, Luke.
It is mine. I do my own research.
So whether it happened or not, it's your truth.
Me and Pete do our own research. And Pete said apology cap at the bottom of his bottom of his house. We just go on YouTube all day. And
I was on the news groups. I was on Truth Socials.
Reddit. Yeah, Reddit.
Do remember, though, everybody, when you're kind of enjoying this England side, this England team won't be around for too much longer because you do have Jude Bellingham who's going to come back in the side. Phil Foden's there. Cole Palmer as well.
Will they get in?
Well, I don't know. I am quite enjoying Jack Grealish in the number 10 role.
And I'm thinking it's Villa Grealish.
I know.
It's a reminder of what he can bring to a club.
I don't think we're going to see this. He's not. Look at the options England have, and obviously he's played out wide a lot more for England as well. It was the first time since like 2021 or something that he'd started to get back-to-back games for England.
He's like a dog in the park in that role, and it's beautiful.
I always felt like I know he had a really good season the season before last for Man City, and he's made a contribution. And I don't subscribe at all to the idea that he's been a whatever the tabloids would say, like £100 million flop or whatever. But I do think they're quite uneasy bedfellows, Grealish and Guardiola, just because Grealish is such an instinctive player, and Grealish said it took him ages to work to get to this point where he knew what Guardiola wanted from him.
Well, a whole season, really.
Yeah, and then the second season he's good.
Wins the treble.
Yeah, I feel like because he's so instinctive, and Jim, it's a great analogy, dog in the park type thing. He can get in there and just do his thing. He may well be best suited somewhere else, and we may see him have another resurgence in his career if he moves on. Because last night, and actually in the first game, he just looks lively, much livelier. When he's playing for Guardiola, kind of off the left, it's always a bit predictable. He's recycling possession. He's coming inside,
and that's I think what Jim's saying about Villa Grealish. It is exciting.
Didn't you see that
360 degrees. He's
exactly.
But didn't you see that all over the kind of pitch, the mobility, the flexibility, there were some starving players out there. They just wanted caps. They wanted caps.
I was finding it curious about how Grealish performed last season for City, because I was always like, not told because I didn't play professional football, but you always kind of led to believe when you play amateur football and stuff and you see wide players playing with you that it's the easiest thing in the world to stop the ball, come inside and play it simple. And you kind of get criticised for not being brave enough to do that. Yeah. Grealish does that all the time for Guardiola. He must be being coached to do that.
And of course he is, but it's keep possession. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then Kevin De Bruyne or Erling Haaland will sort it out, that kind of thing.
We could do with a stern test. I think Greece we've got coming up, but I mean...
Greece are top of the group, mate.
Yeah.
So, England will be playing the top side in the group in the next game.
Can we have a Spain?
So there's your test.
We can't have a Spain because we fucked it up last time.
I want to see a Gomes against Spain.
I don't want to see Spain again.
Ever.
Yeah, exactly. All right, everybody. Coming up in the second half, Kevin De Bruyne throws a strop. Norway's manager cracks a joke about Mikel Arteta. And Craig Bellamy's summer jacket is ruined. See you in a moment.
Guys, sorry, live on Sky News. Your reaction to the win?
We lost.
Sorry, reaction to the loss. Apologies. Reaction to the loss?
Shit.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody.
Quite a bad day at the office, that report.
Yeah.
Reaction to the adverts.
Silly sausage.
Yeah.
Talking of Wales, they beat Montenegro 2-1 away. Craig Bellamy's first win in the Wales hot seat, Jim Campbell. Come on.
In the wet seat.
Very wet seat.
Absolutely. For those that haven't seen the highlights of this, it was a sort of apocalyptic
I was going to say,
conditions to play in.
For those who haven't
way beyond rainy.
I was going to say,
haven't seen this. Can you imagine what the end of the world looks like? 'Cause that's what it is.
I was going to say, like England, Finland was quite a heavy pitch, but this was something else. You know what I mean?
The only man who wasn't phased and impervious to the rain was Robert Prosinecki in the Montenegro dugout. Just had a baseball cap on, just got on with it. Such a dad. It was really dad energy.
He lived in Portsmouth for a bit. He knows.
He knows.
Was he wearing shorts?
Yeah, I tell you what. He actually leant over to Craig Bellamy and said, "You think this is bad? You ever felt the wind whip off the Solent, have you? On a January afternoon?"
And Bella said, "Oh, I've played in some places. Don't you worry about that."
He simply said, "I'm from Wales."
Yeah.
You know what?
That's why our army is the best in the world, because they train in Wales.
Come the end times, I won't be surprised if Craig Bellamy and Robert Prosinecki are just sort of knocking about. Sort of Euronymous Bosch style.
Definitely.
Fucking each other, trying to make babies.
Oh, Peter.
I was going to say Prosinecki's putting Bellamy's limb in his mouth.
Right.
Eating it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. They're eating the Bellamy's.
Is that Prosinecki there? Has he got Craig Bellamy on a spit over a fire?
He looks like a suckling pig now.
I don't think Bellamy would allow that.
He wouldn't.
Bellamy seems like a different person, though, doesn't it?
Indeed,
he seems
yeah.
so much calmer now.
It'll come out, mate.
Yeah, the weird
that rain is sort of just cooling it down, like heat transfer.
He obviously went to the same charm school as Ashley Cole or something. Because you're right, since they've gone on to the touchline, it's been quite different. Bellamy said after the game with regards to the conditions, he said, these are the toughest conditions I've been in. You could have had a lot of excuses about this trip, the change of venue, the travel here, a bus driver who took his time.
Yeah, because the venue
so it wasn't just about the rain.
It was changed quite late on, wasn't it?
It was
40 minutes outside of
40 minutes before kickoff, right back in the van.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, presumably because of the weather.
I don't know what the reason. I think the pitch was deemed to not be playable.
Yeah.
So presumably that's weather related.
Maybe. They needed to find a pitch that was on a hill, so all the rain was running off it.
But what they did really well, and it's a credit to Bellamy and his team, was that they started brilliantly.
It was an unbelievable start.
And part of that was the fact that Harry Wilson has pulled a goal out from absolutely
But Wilson
nowhere.
can do that.
It was brilliant, though.
He's a lovely player, Wilson. He's got a great hit on him. And whenever he does that, I'm always like, I see people. Yeah. So you forget about Wilson, or maybe there's one or two goals in the Premier League that he scored. But honestly, quite regularly he pulls out those. It's Tom Kearney-esque, I would go as far to say.
Is it regularly?
For the amount of minutes he plays, I think it's he would score.
Can I talk you down to semi-regularly?
Well, so
down to a semi.
Well, if you're going on, say, you want to see a 25-yarder scored every 20 minutes, then okay. But if you're comparing it to everyone else, because surely that's the only way you could do it, I think if you looked at players in the Premier League, I think he would be a more regular scorer of 25-yarders than most people, other than Kevin De Bruyne.
He scored 6 league goals
for
Fulham, not including his loan period.
And I want everybody to trust me. They were all from 25 yards. Well, anyway, look, I've perhaps gone a bit
I like
too
him as a
far,
player.
but he's got a hit on it. And
in my mind, he's still about 17.
He is. He just turned 17.
Yeah. He's 27.
Well, there was a 7 in there, but and of course the first goal came after just 37 seconds. And when you got Big Kiefer up there, he couldn't believe his luck, could he?
Yeah, no, he couldn't.
But it was a stunning start.
Missed an open goal from about 3 yards out later in the game. There's so much.
You need a little bit more context on that. He was at full stretch. The conditions.
He was at full stretch. The conditions were hellish, but he was still about 3 yards out, and it was surely easier to score.
The conditions, Jim. Think of the conditions.
He stood up and just went, conditions.
Steven Jovetic, 34 years old. I thought he'd be 40.
Yeah.
Hit the bar from the halfway line. So much happened.
Yeah. Worth a go in those conditions, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, Bellamy, he didn't wear a hood. He didn't change his jacket. He
almost drowned.
You simply cannot use an umbrella, though, can you? That's the problem.
No, exactly.
You just can't do it. We've seen what happens. I think Pete pointed out.
You can wear a rain jacket.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? You don't even have to have a hood up. You
just have a big windscreen wiper like a Cybertruck.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Where would you put it, though? On your face?
In your trunk.
Across your face?
In your trunk to just wipe your face. Like
I could definitely see you having 2 little windscreen wipers on your glasses.
glasses, yeah.
Like a sort of weatherproof hazmat suit.
I had to get very focals this week. I feel very old.
There we go.
Oh, Peter, that's a shame.
But I can see everything.
Well, it's just a genuine question, though, to you, because you and Jim obviously wear glasses regularly. If you're in those conditions and say you have to be outside, so obviously you're not an international football manager, but say you're at a festival, you have to be outside.
You got to go contacts. It looks ridiculous.
Oh, you have to go contacts. You have
to go contacts because it looks ridiculous.
Well, if it's absolutely hammering it down like that, then they just get fogged essentially.
And then if you walk into a pub and it's even worse, and you just look like the nerdiest nerd who ever knows.
Opening the oven as well.
Opening the oven.
Every time.
But they do protect the retinas. They do protect the retinas.
Jim, if you're going to Glastonbury for a weekend and it's going to be rainy, what are you going to do?
It's never been an issue, to be honest. Like you take them off and you wipe them down, you put them off. It's a bit annoying for a bit.
Yeah.
He did a Rafa Benitez, takes them off, puts them in his top pocket. The most electrifying move in Premier League history.
Well, I mean, Bellamy was annoyed about all this sort of stuff, and he said, "I couldn't even wear trainers here. My summer bomber jacket is gone." Somebody swiped
acid
it.
rain.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
I would have some sympathy for him if it wasn't beyond the 1st of September. I think he needs to accept now, really sartorially, after the 1st of September, summer's over.
Again,
Rabbi summer's over.
Yeah.
Surely, the Wales team and everything they bring, surely, again,
involves a coat.
There's a rain jacket in there somewhere. A bloody bib. Do you know what I mean? Like something, like anything. And he's just like, no, I've committed to this look. I'm going to go for it.
He got the win, though.
They won, though.
They did.
Bodes very, very well indeed.
It does. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the quotes from Craig Bellamy about this, but he's having
given you two,
the
Jim.
best time. So I'll read another one. This camp has been incredible. Last night I was really excited about the game, but also sad as it ends tomorrow. Even with a squad of people, they're all going to leave me, and I don't want them to go. It's been such an incredible 10 days. I really couldn't be more proud of them. I love them. They're such a great group, and I've learned a lot off them as well. Tonight was all heart. It's like
that was when he was at Glastonbury, by the way, on Monday morning.
It's like some sort of coming of age tale. It's beautiful. It's absolutely brilliant.
The interesting thing about Bellamy is, as one or two people have noted, that other Wales managers have come in and talked about, right, we're building for something, or there's plans in place, or we're trying to look at the future and so on. And Bellamy hasn't said anything like that. He's basically said, right, I'm here, we're having this, and it's going to be fun. And he's talked about the playing styles and all that sort of stuff. It's not. Obviously, he's a different figure in his country's football than, again, as I've mentioned about Lee Carsley. But it does feel like a really fresh start for Wales. Towards the end of Page's time in charge of Wales, I think, from what I could see, there was certainly a decent size of the section of supporters that were like, I think your time's come to an end here. Some of them would have been a little bit more visceral than others. A little bit like Southgate with England. And so people see, one of their better players in recent years, you might argue, take the job. He's saying all the right things on the pitch. It's beginning to happen. 4 points from the first two games, in the
big one as well.
In the big one, there's a real excitement about the Wales national team, and it's good to see, because we saw that a few years ago. And I think under Page, as I say, it began to become a little bit stale, and you can see that with Scotland and Steve Clarke as well.
Yeah.
So maybe will they turn to Coisty at some point? I don't know.
Big Dunk, come on.
Big Dunk's doesn't want anything to do with the SFA.
But Big Dunk, I think they could get him around a table.
They can't. Trust me.
I'd love to see Big Dunk in there.
God, do you not remember what happened?
Yeah, I do, but I think
he's vegan Dunk now.
I tell you who also remembers Big Dunk. It's not happening.
But sure, but the SFA could, for example, as an opening to the negotiations, say, you were fired after 2 months from Forest Green Rovers. This is an international job,
right?
And it's your home nation. Yeah. Do you want it? Forget what happened before.
Luke, he's already headbutted him by that point.
No one's brave enough to bring that up either.
Yeah,
true. I'd love to see it happen. I would not to be there, but I'd love to see it happen.
Well, obviously, just right. But anyway, so good stuff at Wales and Jim.
Yeah. I think a really important thing in the sort of recent history of Welsh football is the feel-good factor, right? And that might sound like it's sort of almost the patronising.
No, but it's not, because we say the same about England,
and I don't mean it to be, because it's genuinely carried them at times. It has been a massive, massive part of the momentum, that togetherness and that incredible bond that the fans have with the team.
Michael Sheen,
it's an amazing thing.
We're still here.
All that stuff. It's part of what they do really well, and it's an advantage, and he understands that, and he's using it well.
But it's not patronising, because a lot of what England did at World Cup 2018 in terms of at the camp and the off-field stuff, I'm not talking about playing style, off-field, was quite influenced by what Wales did in 2016. Sure. So that Wales campaign in 2016 actually has influenced British football quite a lot.
Is that weird how we talk about Welsh football and Scottish football and non-Irish football? We ask for states people in the big job at England, but in Wales it's like Craig Bellamy, he's a one-off man mental, as Brassard once used, and his passion will take us through. Is it a completely different job, or is it just a?
No, but they're not saying about the passion. I think there's
we have decided that the England job is much bigger and more. I mean, it is bigger.
It's a bigger job.
But England, with regards to what you're saying in terms of statesmanlike and so on, well, you could say that Wales have. Think about someone like John Toshak, who was Welsh manager, a few years ago. He probably would have had that kind of aura. Mark Hughes. The late great Gary Speed, Brian Giggs. But,
it's a big job for those people.
They've had some big names in there
because it's a big job for them because they're Welsh, right?
Absolutely.
And also that's a massive part of it. I mean, Peter, your mother's Welsh. Have you been patronised by anything you've heard here today? Do you feel patronised?
Has she patronised you in general?
She mainly concentrates on Facebook screenshots on my WhatsApp, so I'll have to consult what the runes on that.
Ask her how she feels about Craig Bellamy taking the big job.
Craig Bellamy.
Ask her how she felt about that Michael Sheen. Michael Michael Sheenham's speech, which I bloody loved. I watched it about 15 times.
You thought that Rhys Evans went a bit too far.
I didn't think it was as good, and I think the results bore that out afterwards. Actually. So the proof is that the pudding's often in the eating. I
think that's fair. Fair. Let's look at some other international football-y stuff. Norway won 2-1 on Monday, beating Austria at home. Speaking of specs, Ralph Rangnick, they were beaten despite their lovely time at the Euros. Erling Haaland will do that, though, won't he? Did you see the way he held off the defender?
Yes, it's like men against boys stuff, isn't it? It's like, I mean, you're right to say Austria were really excited. Actually, weirdly, for how the tournament transpired, Austria strangely ended up like underachieving.
I know what you mean.
Because I think they could have gone really far. And we were talking about how they would have beaten England easy and all the rest of it. We had the fever. But it's like certain things. There's something about Haaland which is just undeniable. So it's almost like when I saw Ralph Rangnick's face shortly after that on the touchline, it was almost as if, and he has got that look about him anyway. But it's almost a bit like, yeah, I could study for 20 years, PhDs all over the place. But what do you want me to do about that? I can't do anything about that.
We might later learn that he's actually a further step in evolution.
But yeah, exactly.
I tell you what, though, that Norway kit.
It's beauty. It's a beauty.
It's a bit Avenger-like.
It is.
Yeah, and with Haaland in there.
I love that Finland kit that they wore as well last night with the trees on it. Lovely.
Yeah.
A great day for
What did you think of the Norway one, though?
It's great.
It's a bit Avenger-y.
It's extreme, isn't it?
Yeah. And the numbers as well, a bit jaggedy. It's
I don't endorse that.
No.
Have Arsenal fans taken the Odegaard news well?
Well, generally, as a fan base, we love it when players get injured, so yes, mate.
Yeah, if you didn't see this, Odegaard left the field.
Sorry, could you be more prickly about it?
Odegaard left the field in tears.
He did.
Yes.
No one likes to see that.
No, after an ankle
potentially
injury.
in tears as well.
Potentially in tears. Well, it's a sprain apparently, and then it depends on the scan whether there's a ligament damage. But of course, the situation is that there's a North London derby this weekend. Rice is already suspended.
Marino's broken his arm.
Marino's
fractured his shoulder.
Not come near making a debut there.
Yeah.
And Odegaard probably won't be able to feature now.
Yeah. Although it is one of those things, isn't it? It's just an injury, and there's a lot of discourse has come out about the sort of calendar again. It's like he didn't play in the summer.
Players sometimes get injured.
Exactly,
that's how it goes.
Exactly.
Why don't you play Emile Smith? Oh, you can't. Arsenal play Spurs and Man City, of course, in the next 2 games.
You're forgetting Atalanta, mate. Atalanta are in there as well.
They are. And I did forget them, Jim. You're absolutely right. Norway manager Ståle Solbakken did confirm the injury after the game, and he said it looked very painful in the locker room. I am not really sure Arteta will call me tonight to praise me. I thought, what did you stamp on it when he came in?
It's not physio. You're not. Don't worry. I'll deal with this.
Yeah,
just cracked it again.
Oh dear.
To be fair, I mean Arteta does have a reputation of being the character that he is, and I think large parts of that are fair. But really, as Jim's already alluded to with his barb back at me, I mean. Arteta's not really supposed to be happy about it, is he? I mean, what do you expect?
No.
Cheers for that.
Yeah.
No, he's not going to be happy. I'm not sure he's going to go like full campaign of hate Sir Alex Ferguson behind the scenes on manoeuvres trying to stop any player playing international football.
Yeah. He's not going to try and sue them like Newcastle did with Michael Owen. Remember?
Oh yeah.
He might write an open letter though.
He's
more of an open letter guy.
It got to the point where Michael Owen was basically on loan at Newcastle from England. Didn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It was crazy how often he was fit for England. Never played for Newcastle.
Same with Beckham and LA Galaxy. Some might argue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they very much did.
Yeah, because he went to PSG and then Milan and all that kind of stuff.
And all that. No, to PSG was a clean move.
Oh, separate.
Clean move.
He went to Milan twice, did he?
He did,
clean move.
Yeah. That was a clean break, should I say.
Yeah.
So leave off.
He was saying, I'd like the idea of living in LA for my image and everything, but this football is risen. I'm going to Italy.
Going to Milan.
Yeah.
What a life.
Yeah.
What a life.
Beautiful life.
There was also an injury for another Premier League player, Nathan Ake. Suffered, it looked like a hamstring one.
I hate a non-contact injury.
You never want. So when a player pulls up with a hamstring and they have to go off on a stretcher, it seems bad because normally they get the old shoulders around them and they just hop off because it's a hamstring. Yeah. If that looked like he had torn his hamstring,
I mean that'll be
could be really bad.
Probably 8 weeks if it is as bad as it
depending on the grade of tear, Marcus, I would say.
Absolutely, Luke. Good terminology as well.
Thank you.
It was awful stuff. We turn our attention to Belgium losing 2-0 to France, and Kevin De Bruyne being very, very unhappy. He doesn't seem happy in a Belgium shirt, does he?
No.
Ended quite.
He just doesn't seem happy generally, does he?
No, maybe.
Someone left his cake out in the rain.
Yeah, could have done.
He's just endlessly miserable.
Maybe if he did actually go to Saudi, it would cheer up, and maybe he's motivated by money all along.
I think what happens is he looks like whenever he delivers something on the pitch, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Say he gets a goal and 2 assists for Man City in a big game, right? Which happens a lot, for example. He has the air of a man who just goes, well, that's exactly what I expect.
Well, that's
what I should be doing, and I've done it, so we're neutral now, and I'm going to get off my week. Anything lower than that, he seems upset.
He's a Morrissey footballer, isn't he?
He is a bit.
Yeah.
Imagine he came out with gladioli, just throwing him around.
Yeah, he spoke very specifically about how Belgium are far, far too kind of massed at the back. They said there are too many players in defence. Essentially, is the long and the short of it.
He'd be playing manager then, dickhead.
That's kind of, it's sort of rare that you hear a player come out and say, this is exactly what's wrong with our tactics and this is why it's shit.
But I think he also said that they just weren't listening to the manager as well, so I think it's...
Right.
He was spotted apparently saying to Kylian Mbappe, I quit.
I quit! I quit!
Did he rage quit an actual game?
Yeah.
Might have done. But he missed a trick because apparently he was having a good old row in the dressing room afterwards. Yeah. What he obviously should have done, given they were just beaten by France, is gone and grabbed big Mike Maignan.
Yeah.
You did a business for me in there. That worked. It worked for France.
It did work.
Get in there. Just give them the right act. You haven't got to do it yourself then.
It is France, to be fair.
But it is. But
the Euros, they were disappointing. And then there was a whole the business with the fans. Because rightly so, we thought, that the England fans who have booed England before, and I think it was only about 3 or 4 cups that were chucked at Southgate. But still, I think sometimes people think it was rained down. But still, that's
a few too many in my view.
I would say so. I think you can have one, maybe.
Yeah, one row cut.
And it turned out that it was dropped, and it just took a lucky bounce.
Been an extreme spillage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we speak about that. Well, Scotland fans booing at half time against Poland at Hampden, all this sort of stuff. This happens at international football. It happens in all cross football. But the way that the Belgium team and the Belgian fans almost like had a face off, and De Bruyne went, right, everybody in, kind of thing, like sod them, kind of thing. That's very rare for something like that to happen, and very regrettable, I think. And De Bruyne, of course, is the best player in that team. They've got some good players, but he is the man, isn't he? He's one of the finest midfielders that the Premier League's ever seen, you would say.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely one of the best players of his generation. But it seems a long time ago now since Bobby Martinez got them to that World Cup semi-final, 6 years precisely. And I think there's a huge air of disappointment with this Belgium team, and De Bruyne is of an age where he's used to playing at Man City. We've just seen Gundogan come back to Man City after playing at Barcelona, going, well, this is a load of shit.
Yeah,
not quite the direct quote.
I think he did think. But, there's an element of it, isn't there, that feels like the energy behind it is like it feels like at international level it's slipping away from him, which of course it probably is. And if you look at the profile of player that Belgium have had available to them, I know they got knocked out in the group stage. In the Euros, didn't they?
Well, no, they were beaten by France in the.
Sorry, round. They were in the World Cup. They got knocked out in the group stage, right? They lost to Morocco in the group stage, didn't they? And so the idea is that they always disappoint, but even when they do okay, they always come up just short. And there's a lot of talk around how many good players they've had over the years and how they should be doing better, etc., etc. Sometimes I feel like it's worth pointing out, and we say this a lot when it comes to England, but it's the same with Belgium. Only one team can win these tournaments. And sometimes you're just unlucky. Sometimes it doesn't happen for you on the day, etc., etc. But when it happens over and over again, I think it just becomes immensely frustrating for someone who's used to holding himself up to a very high standard. And that's just how it goes.
But also as well, again, after that very, very successful, you would say, campaign in 2018 when they got the bronze medal, I think people thought, right, we can kick on now, and it just hasn't quite happened. And poor old KDB might bow out on the international stage, although I feel that he'll probably come back round and play again. But we don't want to see it like Peter.
I like that he didn't cover his mouth when he was saying I quit.
Yeah.
He was starting to. Should slap the camera. You see Emiliano Martinez last night whacking the camera. Bang!
Oh, did he?
After they lost.
I like how you called him his full name.
Yeah, just absolutely clattering.
Why didn't he fuck it?
It's a good point, actually.
Should be doing that.
Absolutely grab the barrel of the thing.
Brand.
Yeah.
What about the camera operator?
Yeah.
Or is it just inanimate object?
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Just step hands off. As soon as Martinez grabs something, hands off, because you are part of something now that you do not want to be part of.
No, exactly.
Your fingerprints are on it. It was my camera. It was my job.
No one ever got a lawsuit brought against them by a trophy, is what he's saying.
Exactly. Exactly. True.
I think we should finish there.
Cheers for watching another fantastic clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Make sure you click like on this video and subscribe to the channel, which means you will not miss a single upload.